Denver decides to put deicer on snow-packed side streets, 1 full week after the snowstorm. We'll also head to a city where citizens are thrilled with the snow cleanup, and my thoughts about how Denver's attitude towards snow removal starts as pride but trickles down into something dangerous. Making people pay for plastic bags, it's the idea that just won't die. It's back again. And are the Broncos trying to get booed? No, that's a serious question, and it's next. Denver is facing a real test of its snow removal method. It was the strategy first outlined by the woman who came to be known as Annie Warbucks. Her theory was, the sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there will be sun. Now, the problem with Denver's Little Orphan Annie method of snow removal is that if the sun does not come out tomorrow, or for a full week after the snowstorm, then your city will look something like what Denver looks like today. So late this evening, Denver Public Works announced that it's going to put deicer on the snow-packed side streets. Just hours earlier, Denver Public Works told us that that would not work. But public pressure is a funny thing. So tonight, 1 full week after the snowstorm, they're going to toss down some deicer after repeatedly saying that would be pointless.
We can't drop de-icing material on the side streets like we do on the main streets. It wouldn't be effective. The smaller plows, they're not equipped to drop de-icer. Dropping de-icer on the side streets wouldn't be as effective. We don't see as many vehicles driving that could really help break that stuff up so a plow could remove it easier when it passes.
So after that, they tell us they're going to put down deicer, and we're like, what the what? And Denver Public Works now says they wanted to do something, but acknowledge that it likely won't be effective. Here's the deal. They're going to send the large plows that normally just stick on the main roads into the neighborhoods to put down deicer. They can't fit down every small street, so some streets won't get treated. Then we have to wait and see if the deicer helps break anything up over the course of the week. If it does, then they might send the plows out again to clear those streets. So now, compare the deafening complaints about snow removal in Denver to the silence that is Golden in Golden. Because if we're going to drag Denver, you got to give Golden its due. Meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen found people there praising the city for its storm cleanup.
Clearing ice from his patio is all Bob Flegel had to worry about today because the roads in his town were golden.
Oh, I'd say, Golden, especially with hearing all these other horror stories, is an A.
High marks for plowing in the city of Golden. After nearly 2 feet of snow fell last Tuesday, their crews cleared not only the big roads, but even the neighborhood streets were scraped down to show some patches of pavement.
And I think they're the only town or something around here that does.
We're used to going to all the streets. Most cities don't do that.
Public Works Director Dan Hartman says he'll take the compliments because this storm was a plow driver's worst nightmare, he says, because of timing.
We had a significant amount of snow that fell between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m.
At that time, the crews that were already plowing the neighborhood streets had to switch back to plowing the main roads. By the time they got back to the neighborhoods, the cars had packed the snow down into tight layers of ice.
And it's hard for the snowplow blades to cut through that.
Another challenge that many cities face is staffing plows with CDL qualified drivers. Golden is no exception.
So we had some rookies on the routes. And so, all in all, they did a great job for their first time out.
Hartman says the complaints were at least fewer in his town.
I can promise you they can complain with the best of them.
And with clean streets, this West Side Foothills community is ready for more action.
Anytime you can get a lot of snow, man, I'm for it.
From Golden, meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen for Next.
Here's my favorite part. The city of Golden is so confident about its snow removal program that it offers a ride-along so that citizens can jump aboard a snowplow to see it in action. Now, last week we saw some significant snow, but it was no record breaker by any means. A great way to make the best of a mess is to remember it could be worse. In fact, it has been. Take the blizzard that hit Denver in 1913. Nearly 46 inches of snow fell in Denver that December. Usually we see 8 inches that month. Back in 1913, History Colorado says schools and businesses closed for days. People just slept at work because they couldn't get home. We weren't dependent on cars then, but the trains and streetcars got stuck and derailed. The city ended up hiring hundreds of men to shovel the streets and sidewalks. They were paid $2.50 a day. Most of that snow was dumped into the South Platte, but some of it was piled in vacant lots at Civic Center. Historians say remnants of those snow piles could still be seen 7 months later, in July of 1914. So one last word about the snow removal, or lack thereof. I saw this older guy today. He was seemingly stuck in the middle of a drugstore parking lot. It wasn't until I walked closer that I could see he was surrounded on every side by ice, and he was searching for a solid place to plant his cane before his next step. As we walked inside arm in arm, he says to me, "I don't know how I'm supposed to get around." And I don't know either. I get that it is a point of pride that Denver doesn't really have to plow after it snows. We just wait for the sun to come out. But it seems to me that that mix of toughness and pride and fiscal responsibility, it has a trickle-down effect. An apathy about making the streets accessible for our neighbors after a snow. That idea trickles down and it refreezes in the cold. It runs off the roads and onto the sidewalks that we citizens are supposed to clear for our neighbors. It blocks the curb cuts. It convinces business owners that they don't really need to do any better than the city either, which left that older gentleman stuck there on the ice a full week after it snowed, asking the simplest of questions about our city. How is he supposed to get around? So consider, what cost would make you change your habits at the grocery store? 10 cents a bag? Would that be enough to get you to bring your own bags? Denver City Council has talked about a bag fee again and again, and they're going to take up this idea of a 10-cent fee tomorrow. Our Nusha Roy takes a look.
1 year ago on Next, we talked about the Denver City Council debating a plastic bag ban.
It's in fish, and we're eating those fish, and now they're plastics inside of us.
That idea fizzled out and kept fizzling out over and over again since 2013, while people in Denver continue to use plastic bags, as many as 250 million in a year. Now there's another proposal on the table.
To encourage people to either bring their own reusable bag.
By encourage, Councilwoman Kendra Black means it'll cost you when you go to get groceries, the hardware store, the department store.
And they'll say, well, it's 10 cents, and maybe you pay 50 cents that day, and next time you'll remember to bring your bags.
There would be a 10-cent charge for paper bags, too.
And paper bags actually have a big carbon footprint.
At this point, enough other cities have a similar fee program or ban that Denver has some numbers to study. Boulder saw a 70% drop in the number of people using plastic bags. Seattle saw a 50% reduction, and California saw a 73% drop.
Our major concern is just that our clerks at the point of sale are not made into somehow the plastic bag police.
Chris Howes with the Colorado Retail Council has been vocal about concerns in the past.
The idea of a complete and utter ban, I think, was a little bit too much for some people to understand how that might work.
But said this proposal fits in with what a lot of stores are already doing, working towards being more environmentally friendly.
Certainly be some sort of burden on the store. So that's why the 4 cents out of the 10 cents will actually be kept by the retailer, and that'll pay for some of the setup of those programs.
So there are going to be some exemptions if this does pass, like people on SNAP benefits. They're not going to have to pay extra for bags. There wouldn't be a fee either for those produce bags or dry cleaning bags. Kyle, they're really focusing on the single-use bags, you know, the one that you're getting at the grocery store.
Sure. I imagine people are going to be fired up about this. As always, you're going to want to talk about it.
Yep, yeah, and so tomorrow you've got about a 15-minute window to actually weigh in on this with City Council. You got to sign up for that by 1 p.m. If this passes out of committee, there's going to be another chance to talk to them on the 16th. But Kyle, they're moving fast. They want to get a final vote on this before the end of the year.
All right, thank you, Nusha. As we warned you, school districts are beginning the crackdown on students who do not have vaccinations or a letter from their parents explaining why the family's not getting them. So this happened to some Littleton Public School students last month, and Boulder Valley parents had until today to update their kids' vaccination records or have them sent home. At the start of the year, Boulder Valley said it had about 5,000 student vaccination records which were incomplete. Parents either needed to turn in a current certificate of immunization or give the district a statement saying that their kid would not be vaccinated. Now, there are only 30 students with such incomplete records. Those students can't come to class until they turn in one or the other. It's a sign that something happened here during the snowstorm. The Broncos saw a city full of no-shows. 19,000 people had tickets to Sunday's game and chose to stay home. Why do the Broncos announce those embarrassing no-show numbers? Next.
Okay, December, this is a little more like it. After a foot of snow in October and in November, here we are starting our third snowiest month with mild weather. Some of you saw temperatures in the 50s today. The snow and ice starting to melt. We'll get 2 more days before the next storm arrives. I'm actually tracking 2 storms. One is a weak system coming in from the northern Rockies, and it'll stay to the north of Colorado. The other one is a low that will cut off from the main flow off the coast of California, eventually making its way toward Colorado and bringing more mountain snow. Between now and then, fair skies, lighter winds along the Front Range with a little snow for the northern mountains tomorrow, but not enough that we have winter weather or travel advisories posted. And less wind for those of you that dealt with wind in Allens Park, Red Feather Lakes, and the northern Front Range foothills earlier today. And so with fair skies and light winds, our low tonight will be cool, but not as cold as it has been. Upper 20s in the city. A cold start to the day, but a nice warm up. Upper 40s, low 50s, both Tuesday and Wednesday. 20% chance of snow showers on Thursday morning. Cool and dry Friday, warm for Saturday. Next storm and next chance for snow rolling in Sunday night into Monday. Right now, this one has the potential to bring some light accumulation.
It's a sign that seems to suggest the work of a higher power. A broken electrical line post that appears to float above County Road 54 in Evans. Our viewer Kathy spotted it. Excel says a car took out the post Friday night and, the line held. It was kind of stormy and windy, so they decided if it's good, it's good. They just left it flapping in the breeze until they came back to fix it today. The Denver Broncos continued a 50-year sellout streak yesterday. Perhaps you noticed many of those sold-out seats were disguised as empty ones. If you've been around for any period of time, you know that's how this works. The Broncos and the NFL count tickets sold. They don't require a butt and a seat. So why do the Broncos always publicly announce the number of empty seats at every game? Because this weekend, our Marshall Zellinger heard that number, and it stung.
Why do the Denver Broncos subject themselves to boos by showing the number of tickets not used every home game?
You look around the stadium, Dave, it's about half full right now.
When I asked Broncos historian Jim Saccomano, he actually spun the question on me. Why don't other teams? He tells me the Broncos have always done this because teams used to announce actual attendance and not paid attendance until league policies changed. Saccomano says Pat Bowlen kept the tradition because fans like to boo the no-shows. Like the 19,094 who didn't show up yesterday. That's a bigger snub than the 12,000 who missed the season-ending game against the Chargers last year, which wasn't as bad as what Broncos insider Mike Klisch remembers the weekend after Thanksgiving 2010. We have video of Kyle Orton, just not the number of no-shows. It was 45 degrees that day, the Broncos lost, and 8 days later, Coach Josh McDaniels was fired.
And the snow pouring down at Mile High Stadium.
But Jim Saccomano believes the biggest no-show game was December 27th, 1987.
There are thousands of people here and tens of thousands of no-shows.
The announced attendance, 37,500, meaning half the fans stayed home. So what about the Nuggets, Avs, and Rockies? I reached out to each and asked what would it take, and would the team also consider announcing tickets sold that went unscanned? Cue up the PR music! The Nuggets release its attendance numbers in accordance with NBA policy, which is paid attendance. Stop the PR music ever so briefly. 1 minute later, I got this response from the Avs. Music, please! The Avalanche releases its attendance numbers in accordance with NHL policy, which is paid attendance.
It's like they share a build. I wonder if it was like, hey, should we write you write first, and then you. The Rockies' response was less PR speak, but also has to do with league policy. Well, the Broncos buck league policy, and fans get a kick out of it. At least the fans who show up. I would be remiss to mention that snow game with the 37,500 empty seats. It was bad weather out.
Yeah.
And Broncos show up in bad weather when the team is good.
Yeah, we've seen that happen.
2013, that playoff game that we don't want to talk about, but the double overtime Baltimore-Denver game, coldest game in Broncos home history, that was as sold out as possible.
Sold out. Every single person saw Raheem Moore fail to make that play. Wow, that's quite the burden to carry. I hope he's doing well. All right, thank you, Marshall. He spent a career staring up from Colorado at asteroids.
I think Paul's a very humble person, but he has great skills and great knowledge.
It's about time he got this very interesting recognition.
I was happy to see a big smile on his face.
Next. Asteroids, old school cool arcade game, and the life's work of a CU researcher, a guy who now has one of those flying rocks named for him. Our Ann Herbst met up with the rock star.
Sometimes good things happen behind closed doors.
Not very many Ecuadorians work in planetary sciences.
Paul Sanchez, a researcher at the Colorado Center for Astrodynamics Research, typically hides from attention.
No, never been in it for the fame.
Such is the way of life for folks who study asteroids.
There are many things we don't know, but that is what makes everything exciting, because there is a lot of things to explore.
Paul's been working with me for the last decade or so.
We needed to know how to approach these asteroids, how to interact with these surfaces.
These asteroids can cause damage, and we want to understand how they're put together.
Dan Shears works with Paul and decided to nominate him for a special honor.
His asteroid is a binary asteroid, so it probably looks something like this.
Honored me with naming an asteroid after me.
I think he maybe suspected that this was going to happen, but he wasn't sure.
It's just 20,082 Paul Sanchez.
Happy to see a big smile on his face.
Maybe the same I have right now.
Paul isn't the only one at CU who knows that feeling.
It's this asteroid Shears. Probably looks a little bit more like this. Just sort of like a blobby shape. Whereas his is cool and it actually has two bits.
Science in Ecuador is not, I think, one of the main priorities, and I think it should be.
Never in it for the fame.
It's not only mine.
Paul hopes this honor shows what's possible for aspiring scientists in Ecuador.
It also belongs to them.
Now close that door so Paul can get back to work. For Next, This is Ann Herbst.
There are now 3 faculty members at CU Boulder that have an asteroid named after them. Do not mistake that for being an easily obtained honor. It typically means years of research work and piles of applications. We will return with your feedback about snow removal. It's hot enough we should probably just grind it up and put it on Denver's side streets. Next. BW writes in tonight, thanks for talking snow removal. I use a wheelchair. The curb cuts are full of snow and impassable. If you are disabled, you cannot get around. Then we got this on Twitter. Guess all you crybabies will have to take your Priuses back to California. It's winter. Learn to drive or get a real car. That one's anonymous. Such courage there. Jim Medlock observes snowplowing in Denver only happens in an election year. See you next time.